Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Josh Meredith, and I am the executive assistant from Team Born This Way Foundation. And I am so excited for this conversation today. I'd like to first start by saying a huge thank you to Mxiety for hosting this conversation here with us on Twitch. I am not personally a big gamer myself, but I love watching people play video games, and my partner is also a big gamer. So I just think it's so amazing, the community and the safe spaces that you created here on Twitch. So I honestly can't think of a more perfect place to host this conversation here on the eve of World Mental Health Day. So I'm so excited to be here with you, all of our wonderful panelists. And we're going to talk a little bit about the importance of supporting the mental wellness of young people online. Because as we know, in the world today, for so many, home life, work, school, it's all kind of blended together in what's already an increasingly digital world. So it's so important that we meet them where they're at. And right now, that's online. And we know that people, young people especially, are struggling a lot right now. We have increasing rates of depression, suicidal ideation, anxiety. That was happening both before the pandemic and now has only increased. We know this from some recent CDC data that 1 in 4 young people between the ages of 18 and 24 say that they've considered suicide during this time. And also another recent survey that we've taken at Born This Way Foundation in partnership with chegg.org, conducted to students, indicates that more than half of the young people are increasingly concerned about their mental health right now. And we need to work together to not just lower those statistics, but eliminate them. And so I'm so honored to be here with you all, to be doing this work, to connect us, to connect these young people with the resources that they need to not only survive their lives, but to thrive, so that they can feel better equipped to manage their struggles than I did when I was a young person. I grew up with severe anxiety and depression starting at an early age, and I just wish that I would have had the access to some of the resources that we're going to be talking about today. So that being said, today's young people are truly amazing. They are developing these tools and resources to support and connect to one another. They're starting their own movements and nonprofits, and they're also bravely sharing their stories and having conversations like the one we're having today, talking about mental health, because that encourages everyone else to do the same. And it's just so inspiring to see them showing up for themselves online and in the world to make it a kinder and braver place for us all. So let's get into it, folks. And to our audience, we'll be taking some questions toward the end of the conversation. So if you have one that you'd like to ask, you can type in exclamation point and the letter Q and then your question. And then Mxiety will get to as many of those as we can towards the end there. So I'd like to start us off by inviting each of our panelists to please introduce yourselves, share your pronouns, and then tell us, in this increasingly digital world, how you would recommend that mental health organizations and professionals work to meet the young people where they are online. And let's start with Abby. Hi, Abby, welcome.
Hi, thank you, Josh, for that. So my name is Abby. I am the founder of the Kind Mind Collective. We are an organization that focuses on promoting kindness and compassion through education to K through 12 students. On top of that, I am a contributing author to Channel Kindness book that just came out. In partnership with the Born This Way Foundation. And I did write a story about Kind Mind Collective and how I grew to build that. And to answer your question, in this increasingly, digital world, how we could be supported, through our mental health is just to have people listen to us young people and to have that support system throughout all generations is just such an incredibly helpful tool that a lot of people don't realize how helpful it is, but just being there and being supportive is just so helpful.
Yes, thank you, Abby. And congratulations on the success of Channel Kindness. You are a New York Times best-selling author now. We are so proud of you and all of our other authors. And I'm just so happy to have you here today. And you're exactly right. A lot of the work that one of the main goals that we have at the foundation is to validate the emotions of young people. And that's the baseline. We need to be listening and validating. So thank you for being here. And now I'll turn it to our host here on Twitch, Mxiety. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hi everyone, it's Mxiety. So I'm a mental health talk show host here on Twitch. I talk to experts, I share my own story. I'm also a self-published author for my blog that has been published around the internet on the Mxiety and sites like that. So to answer your question, I think one of the most important things that we need is more awareness of the resources that are out there. I see that they exist. There's so many, and we'll definitely touch upon this as we go. There's so many foundations and nonprofits and that are doing incredible work, but there's just not enough people that know about them. And part of that, of course, is the stigma. Part of that is the fact that we don't treat mental health like regular health, and because of that, it makes us it makes us hesitant to look for those kinds of resources. And so kind of, if we could hit two birds with one stone, unfortunately for the birds, if we could get those two happening at once, I think we'd be in a much healthier space as the world total.
Absolutely. Let's do that here today. Let's help to break through that stigma and list some resources to help people all over. So thank you so much for being here and sharing that. And Cheyenne, hi.
Hi, thank you so much, Josh, for that amazing introduction, and Abby and Mxiety for explaining what you're about, and just so incredible hearing everything you're doing. Like I said, my name is Shayan Yazdanpanah. I think it's worth mentioning that I am not an author, just given everyone else's background, but maybe one day. But I am the Be There coordinator at Jack.org. And for those of you who don't know, Jack.org is a youth mental health charity in Canada. And we do work all across Canada, specifically with young people, to empower them to lead mental health conversations in their community. And I joined Jack.org about 5 years ago now as a young person in the network. And now I'm working there on Be There, which is what I'm going to be talking to you all about today. BeThere.org, which is our resource that teaches young people how to be there for one another in their lives. And so, I'll get into that a bit later. But to answer your question, kind of relating to Be There, I think one of the most important things that organizations can do to engage young people online, kind of similar to what you mentioned, Abby, that we need to make sure we're asking young people how they want to be engaged online. Just because I think, especially with youth-facing organizations, a lot of times a pitfall they fall in is assuming that, oh, it's on Facebook Live, young people will be there, or like, oh, it's on YouTube, like young people love that, so they'll go and check it out. But it really varies so much. And just in our examples of, we have Jack Talks, Jack Chapters, and Jack Summits, which after COVID, we've had to shift all of those to online capacities. And we've done each of those in a different way based off what we've heard from our network. So I would really encourage any organizations or mental professionals to really engage who their target audience is and ask, how do you want to work online? Is it a Zoom call? Is it a conference? Is it, so many different things? Is it Twitch? There's just so many options right now, especially. So really just asking and then listening and using that feedback properly, I think can go a really long way.
Absolutely. Thank you, Cheyenne. Again, hearkening back to listening to young people and working with them to build these resources. That's such an important foundation to build upon. So thank you for that. And Dr. Bouquet, welcome. We're so happy to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be with you all. And, I'm a psychologist and I work in New York. And a big part of the work that I do really focuses on increasing access to mental health related information. I think that for a very long time, a part of the reason why mental health has been so different from the way that we treat physical health is because we've been like in our own little cocoon. And so now we're like sprouting and, um, being able to expand the conversation around mental health, and people are really able to know so much more about what this area of our lives is and how to take care of ourselves in this way as well. And so really what I'm hoping that organizations can continue to do is a bit of what we're doing here, which is expanding the conversation and opening up opportunities for young folk to have conversations with a number of different people that have had a mental health journey, because we're all human and we all have one, right? And in addition to that, to also expand our vocabulary around mental health. Sometimes people can have a feeling that they're experiencing for a very long time, especially when we're young and we really don't know what is happening, right? And that contributes to the stigma, that contributes to the ways that people don't really know how to find an out or an outlet. And so if we can actually add language to the experiences that young people are having, I think it can be not only destigmatizing, but also helpful in being able to orient young people and give language to what is happening within.
That's so true. The more we talk about it, the less that stigma is there, the more that stigma goes down. So I think that's so important that we help to increase the vocabulary and just keep talking about it. So thank you so much, Dr. BK. So our first question, I will direct it back to Shayan to tell us a little bit more about the amazing resource that is jack.org's BeThere.org. It's truly revolutionary. I've used it. I love it. It's so easy. I think it's so incredibly helpful. And basically just what it is it's short, easy to follow videos that they're actually made for young people and by young people. And they receive life-saving information on how to recognize if a loved one is struggling and then how to connect them with the support. So I'd love to hear a little bit about the creation of BeThere.org and how it came about.
Yeah, so I mean, Be There is something that I work on every day, but is actually a fairly new thing for Jack.org. We launched it in May 2019, so it's just been a bit over a year now. And before Be There, we at Jack.org, we're encouraging people to talk a lot about mental health and like we're talking about, remove that stigma that unfortunately is still such a strong thing that exists. But at least within our network, we realized that there are more young people that are talking about mental health now, but we were facing a lot of questions of, okay, well, what now? What do I say once I'm comfortable talking about it? How do I have that conversation in an effective way, but also a safe way? And so we realized there needed to be something created to fit that gap. And after, not to bore anyone and just I'll call it research development, but pretty much a year of people's work, went into creating what Be There is today, which is an online website that, like you said, Josh, takes stories from young people and talks about how you can support someone in 5 easy steps that we call our 5 golden rules, which, just summarizing for everyone, are say what you see, hear them out, show you care, know your role, and connect them to help. So these stories that we created are of people in various different situations and various different levels in their mental conversations. For someone, it might be just starting up a conversation with someone. For someone, it might be, okay, they're connected to resources, but I'm not sure if the resource is working for them. How do I revisit that conversation? And so as we kind of built it out, we realized that these conversations are so nuanced. And while these golden rules do provide a good framework, the videos really show how much nuance, again, that there is in these conversations and how different everyone follows mental health. And for us, I think that peer-to-peer aspect was one of the biggest things behind it, because we knew that we wanted to create something that works and that is backed in science, but we also wanted it to be something that young people will use, just because unfortunately there are a lot of resources out there that sometimes just don't get seen and don't get utilized. But we're really grateful with the success we've had with Be There. And like I said, it is only just over a year old, but in that time we have been blown away with the success we've received with it. I'm just going to flex here. We won a Webby this year, which officially makes us the best health website in the world, which is awesome. But there's been so much work that goes into it, and there still is so much work that we're putting in to really make it better and make sure that this gets in the hands of every young person, just because I obviously with my job have to stand behind it, but I would be lying if I said I don't use it and refer to it every day, genuinely, just because they are simple steps, but they're very hard to master and perfect in your relationships, just because of that nuance that exists. So I personally would encourage everyone to go check it out, just because even 5 minutes can get you so far in that journey of really being comfortable talking about your mental health.
That's awesome. Thank you, Shayan. And congrats. Come on, Webby winner. That's amazing.
I wish I had the award here to show you, but I didn't.
Right. in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, it's so easy to use. We talk about at Born This Way Foundation, we talk about mental health every day, but I do use BeThere.org. I think 5 minutes it takes, and it's just such an important reminder. And it's just such a great tool. So as you mentioned, it's still pretty new, but I'd love to know where you're going from here. What's next for Jack.org? What's next for BeThere.org?
Yeah, so I mean, for us, especially during COVID, so much has changed with, realizing that online resources are such a major need right now for young people. And so definitely building on Be There and continuing to expand. A big way we're trying to do that is really adding more diversity in our stories of not only backgrounds that people have, but just the relationships of, we have right now a mother and daughter, we have partners, we have siblings, we have friends. There's so much nuance that goes into those conversations that people can really absorb from. And so, for us, we don't think that everyone's going to be able to relate to every single story, but really trying to make sure that there's at least a couple stories there that everyone can find something to pull from, I think is a big priority for us. And then as well, just reach overall, where right now, with partnerships that we're doing, like partnerships with Born This Way, we're really trying to get Be There in the hands of a lot of young people, just because we know how powerful of a resource it is so far. And we're really looking forward to just making sure that more young people know about it and are able to use it. And then obviously continue building out however we can. And, it's kind of hard right now, I'm sure, for everyone to really think, we were talking about earlier, what are our weekend plans, or, what's going to happen next week with everything changing so drastically so often. But really just continuing to make sure it's the best resource that's available out there and continuing to get in front of people. That's something that I'm personally really excited about, especially around times like World Mental Health Day. I think it's such a great opportunity to just get more people checking it out. So yeah, that's really what's going on with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your incredible work. And I encourage everyone to check out BeThere.org. It's truly an amazing resource. And I'll now kick it to Mxiety, who's going to show us a short video to tell us a little bit more about Be There.
One of the worst times of my mental health was high school.
I basically came out to Shaya, essentially, which was not easy for me at the time.
You stopped coming to school as much. You were very distant from everyone. You pushed yourself away.
I was afraid she would say I'm not strong and that you should be able to handle it better.
And sometimes it might not feel like you have anybody to talk to.
It was a progression. It was slowly. It was talking to her on a daily basis.
You didn't respond in a negative way, or you didn't like instantly point at me and be like, dude, like, get over it.
Not comfortable with this.
Yeah, exactly. No, you stuck around, you asked questions.
And that was actually very healing for me to just be able to talk about it with you in person.
You had these moments where you gave me a lot of peace and a lot of joy and laughter, and you never made me feel sick.
Texting her during the day at school, asking her how her day was, and it worked.
Esther was one of the most important people who encouraged me to be who I am.
I'm there for him by reminding him of just how far he's come.
We've always kind of been there for each other, I would say.
Esther became my number one rock.
To just have someone just being there to listen. It was really tough, but I felt comfortable because you were there.
And we're back.
Thank you so much. Well, I will keep it here with you, Mxiety. Again, we're so grateful to be here on your channel. And we're so grateful that you prioritize sharing about your mental wellness and opening up the conversation around mental health. We know that's important for our collective health. We know there's no physical health without mental health. But we also know that it's important, as we've been talking about, to eliminate the stigma around mental health specifically. So I would love to know, why is it important for you to include these topics on your channel?
Well, my channel actually started completely as a specific resource for mental health conversation. I found that I saw a lot of professionals talking about mental health, and then I saw a lot of people who were experiencing it firsthand talking about it, but I felt like there wasn't something happening in the middle where those two parties were talking and learning about each other. And so that's what I set out to do with Mxiety and with the channel. The other part about Twitch that is absolutely incredible is the live interaction that is unique to this platform. And that's what I set out to do. I thought about, making videos, but I specifically wanted to have a conversation, an open discussion, and make sure people had a safe space where they can come in and talk about it, whether they had a bad day or they just want to learn, about seasonal affective disorder or anything else that we talk about. So it's an honor to be able to host this space. And I believe by having these conversations, we're breaking the stigma and making it just more normal and more part of a regular discussion, and creating just an easier understanding of mental health, where it's not like this big scary thing, and it doesn't always have to be something that's upsetting or very difficult or heavy to hang on. It can just be a conversation, and sometimes you'll laugh and sometimes you'll cry and sometimes there's in between moments, but the most important thing is that we're learning from each other, and it's happening live. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, that's incredible. I think it's so important to have these safe spaces like the one you have here on Twitch. As with any kind of open forum, it's important to let people know that they're not going to be judged, because a lot of the time we attach judgment to these mental health conversations in our own minds. So to talk to someone and be able to feel like you can safely, honestly share what you're feeling is just so important, to feel that support. So you're doing some amazing work here. So I would also love to know what games and also what resources are you turning to for support?
I'm glad you asked, because there's a ton. So we have a lot of commands in chat. If you are following chat, you're probably seeing links get posted, reminders get posted. So resources are very important to us. I'm also an ambassador for several mental health and gaming related charities, specifically because of that. So for games, one of the best games that we love right now that we're on is Stardew Valley. And I'd be lying if I didn't actually first mention Animal Crossing, because wow, that's been really a lifesaver for, I think, a lot of people during quarantine. But Stardew Valley is a great game that actually has examples of what it's like to take care of somebody who is experiencing suicidal ideation. Another great one is Life is Strange, where you actually have to act upon mental health first aid in order to save one of the characters. So we try to play those games to raise awareness. But in terms of resources, I have a ton. So we are big supporters here of To Write Love on Our Arms, because through To Write Love on Our Arms, you can receive access to affordable care, and they provide scholarships. The Trevor Project, of course, for LGBTQ plus youth. TakeThis.org and Safe in Our World for any information that you might be looking for in terms of mental health in the gaming space. Then we have Games Hotline for gamer emotional support. It's a hotline you can literally text if you are in the gaming space, and people will get what you're talking about, which is not something that's super common and easy to access usually. Heart Support is another wonderful foundation, and they have an anonymous wall where you can post and strangers can reply wonderful, kind things to you. And then, of course, there's Crisis Text Line and National Suicide Hotline. All of those, we try to raise awareness and support them however we can through fundraising, but also just making sure that those resources are available there. And then if you forget any of those, because I listed off a bunch, they're also all on my website. Yeah.
Resource Queen, thank you so much. We love all the resources, and you just nailed it. So thank you so much for all of those. While we're talking about resources, I would also love to bring up one that Born This Way Foundation launched today in partnership with Find Your Anchor, which we'll find out, which we'll learn more a little bit later, called Please Stay. And basically what Please Stay is it's a resource you can use to remind yourself of the anchors in your lives. What's anchoring you to this world? For me, that's regular therapy. I use BetterHelp. I think it's a really good resource, especially right now in the time where telehealth is so important. Going for runs here in New York City. And I love to send musical theater memes to my friends on Instagram. Like, anchors, they don't have to be groundbreaking. They can be easy. So Please Stay tells you a little bit more about that. And you can visit that at pleasestay.us. And you can also take a pledge where we ask you to promise to stay here with us. You'll find some suggestions for evidence-based self-care tips, life-saving resources, all that good stuff. And Someone will drop the link in the chat, I'm sure. But
It's
I just
there.
wanted to share
like 4
Yay,
times.
okay.
We're good.
Cool. Well, I just wanted to share that brand new one because it launched today. So thank you for that resource blast. So now I'll turn it down to Abby, our Channel Kindness author. I just want to say that I loved your story in Channel Kindness. I really connected to it. I just really love how you really changed the game in the internet community, because as we were talking about safe spaces, you talk a little bit about kind of the unkindness that you're met with and how you changed the game on that. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that, and tell us about your process writing that story and your new organization, Kind Mind Collective.
Yeah, thank you. Back in 2016, around 2015, 2016, I've been a gamer pretty much all my life. And when I was building my first ever PC, I was so excited to be able to play these new games, have all these games at my fingertips. And I started to play games with a lot of voice chat. And voice chat, especially with me being a girl on voice chat, can be a little difficult sometimes. So I would get bullied for that a lot. And I remember one instance with me on voice chat where someone actually doxed me, and they were able to find all of my personal information, including my name and my address. And that was really scary for me. And I didn't want anyone to have to feel like they're not safe on the internet. So I created the Kind Mind Collective in 2016, formerly Diverse Gaming Coalition, now the Kind Mind Collective. We're dedicated to support young people through kindness, compassion, empathy. We create a kind and accepting world using programs, materials, events, and workshops that teach human connections. One thing that we have as one of our educational tools is our comic book called Life on the Outside. It follows a non-binary person of color in a high school setting. And we use this comic book to teach people just to be an ally and to support those who are different from us, and those who can use some extra support. And writing the Channel Kindness story for the book, I talk a lot about my struggles online and how I dealt with that. You know, Being online was originally a safe space for me, and uh, getting away from all the hassle and trouble from life, dealing with school. I wasn't doing too well in school, and being online, having that safe space, and then eventually having that safe space kind of let you down. Was very disappointing for me. So that's why I decided to create the Kind Mind Collective and decided to share my story, because I think storytelling is extremely important. And for me telling my story, I've been able to connect with so many people who are on the same boat as me, who either, are having issues in school, or, having issues online in gaming communities, that are able to say, like, your story helped me. And I just thank you for that. And I think that, again, it's just so important to tell your story and just share with everyone, you're not alone, and there's support out there, and there's people out there that are nice and friendly and want to be there to support you.
Well, thank you so much. Creating that safe space, using your experiences and using that to help other young people is just so inspiring. And you're so right. The more we share our stories, the more it encourages others to do the same. And I'd also take this time to encourage folks to visit channelkindness.org, which is our youth storytelling platform with Born This Way Foundation. And you can also check out Abby's story in our book, channelkindness.org/book, to purchase that. So I'll keep it here with you, Abby. As you mentioned, you are a gamer yourself, and you're also a Twitch streamer. You're known as Yes Abby. What games would you recommend to the community here on Twitch?
Well, I think Mxiety said it perfectly. Stardew Valley and Animal Crossing are just so quaint and calm and just so perfect to play on, those mental health days where we're not feeling too well. I think Minecraft is also another good one to play when you just want to get away from everything and you just want to, be in the zone, play a game. A game that I'm very, very into right now is Among Us, and I have found such a great community of people to play with. Among Us, I will say, can get a little heated sometimes with people accusing one another of, who's the imposter or whatnot. But at the end of the day, at the end of the game, I'm just like, hey, like sometimes I have to apologize, especially if I'm accusing people. I'm just like, I'm so sorry, like I did that. Like like we're still cool, we're still good. But otherwise, Among Us is probably my favorite right now. I am obsessed with that.
Awesome, thank you. I'm definitely gonna check out some of these after this panel. I'm so excited to dive in. So thank you for sharing that, Abby. We're so happy to have you. So now I have a question for Dr. Bouquet. So as I mentioned early on, we're seeing some alarming statistics coming out of the CDC reports showing that 1 in 4 young people have reported suicidal thoughts. Our research at Born This Way Foundation also, however, shows that young people prioritize their mental wellness, but often they just don't know where to turn for support. And when someone turns to them for support, they don't know what to say. So we've heard a little bit about BeThere.org and some other resources that are helping further along that conversation. But my question to you would be, what advice would you have for someone who is looking for places to turn to?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's really important that, beyond also, turning to organizations and maybe, I love the fact that the gaming community can be a community that can be, especially if you create a specific community or you're playing a specific game, that it can feel safe and feel like, it's a place of safe conversations or conversations where you can feel held. I would say, also extending that into your friendships and other communities that you may have, maybe family members or other people that are in your life beyond organizations, right? Because organizations, we can, offer information, and then you also need the human connection, right? To be able to have a conversation with another person where you can be heard and held, and you can feel like you can actually say whatever is on your mind that you're holding on to that is probably contributing to that anxiety or maybe to those sad feelings. Having a human connection is so important. And right now, since a lot of us are in quarantine, really kind of across the world, we're lacking that a lot. And so if you can find any opportunity to have that with whomever it is that you can have close contact with and try to initiate some sort of a conversation, I think that can be really, really healthy. There's so much power in that. It's part of why I became a therapist, because I literally get to sit in front of people and have a conversation about how they're doing. One of the people that actually, the person that has motivated me the most and has been just really my center in my universe is my 13-year-old nephew, Aiden. And Aiden is, he's just incredible. He's a gamer himself. He actually just texted me and said that he actually plays some of these games as well, including Among Us. So that was actually kind of cool to be able to get that text from him. And being able to have conversations with Aiden that are just one-on-one, and for him to be able to tell me, kind of how he's feeling or what kind of day he's had at school or what kind of day he's had with his community of friends is something that I hold dear. And whenever there's anything happening in my world, I literally like tune everything out, including my phone, to just be front and center for Aiden. And I'm hoping that, that kind of interaction where you're just literally present and there and listening and loving and kind to another human being, in the way that Aiden has taught me to be. I hope that, that can be something that can be replicated across the world, because we need so much more of that.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. And I'm so glad that you're able to be there for Aiden and that he has you. It's important that we model these healthy conversations, right? We tell parents that a lot of the times young people uh, don't share their struggles because they don't hear their parents sharing their own experiences and their struggles. So it's awesome that you have that open line of communication with him. And yeah, touching on remaining socially connected right now, and people use the term socially distanced, but we know words matter, and we try to stay away from that phrase. We say we need to be physically distant, but keeping that social connection is so important, and maintaining those relationships where you can. And I think technology has opened up beautiful ways to keep doing that. So thank you for that awesome reminder. So I'd also love to ask you, what advice might you have for someone whose friend tells them that they're having a difficult time in keeping in line with that line of connection open?
Yeah, I think, one of the most powerful things that we can do for another person is to validate them, validate their experience. It sounds super simple, but it can be so healing. It's almost like receiving like a word hug, like a verbal hug. When you tell someone like, wow, that's really hard, or, I really feel for you. I'm sorry that you're going through that. It's really not rocket science to really kind of be there for another person. I know it may seem that way because when we think about the world of mental health, we think, oh gosh, that's something that's pretty heavy. I don't know how I can be there for someone. But in reality, all it takes is for you, to just practice that that philosophy of kindness, just be kind, be gentle, be there, be present, don't be on your phone, right? Because we're like so tethered to our phones that sometimes we forget that can send a message that we're not present. And just, say what's in your heart. If it's something that's heavy and hard, then just reflect that back to that person, right? Like, I'm so sorry that you're going through that. That seems really, really hard. And those moments of offering those words of validation can have such a great impact on so many of us. So I think it's just about sticking to the basics. And to be honest, even though I'm like, a doctor and I got 8 years of training, a lot of the stuff that I say is that too, right? Like, it's literally like really human to human, meeting a person where they are and just, letting them know that's a really hard thing to go through. That really sucks. And I'm here for you. And that can make a world of difference.
Thank you. That's a beautiful message, and important to remember that it's pretty simple. So thank you for that advice. So now I would like to turn it to Mxiety to show us a video about our friends at Find Your Anchor. They've created a really wonderful resource our friend Allie has, and we're going to share a little bit about that in this next video.
Excellent. 3, 2, 1.
Maybe you've read about this. Maybe you didn't have to read about it because it's already hit too close to home. But you should know the world is suffering from an epidemic of suicide. In the United States alone, the number of people taking their own lives has increased 25% since 1999. Globally, this epidemic cost us almost 800,000 of our mothers, brothers, spouses, children, heroes, and fellow humans every year. And each one of those people had their own story. But there's a consistent theme I've heard over and over, a feeling of being alone and unseen in the middle of an increasingly distracted and disconnected society. Stories about standing in a park or on a bridge, just waiting for someone to say hello, for just one smile from a stranger to prove to themselves that their existence matters. When you're suffering, it can really be something that small. Acknowledge me, smile at me, and I won't kill myself. What they need is something to grab onto, something to hold themselves in place. That's why I created Find Your Anchor. It's not a program or a hotline. It's something real you can hold in your hand. And inside are items designed to give hope, validation, and maybe a smile to the person who finds it. A letter, a poster, a deck of cards full of ideas and experiences that help anchor us to our lives. We launch these boxes into the world one at a time. People in need find them and take them home. They keep them as long as they like. When they're ready, they add something of their own to the box and launch it for someone else to find. So far, we've launched thousands of boxes in every state and over 35 countries. We've established partnerships with other groups dedicated to suicide prevention, and we've created custom blue boxes for partners in the military and education. We want a box on every college campus, on the desk of every congressperson, and in the hands of every veteran who suffers from suicidal thoughts. And you can help. A $25 donation covers the printing, materials, and assembly of one box. And we are looking for additional partnerships to help expand our mission of helping people establish an anchor, a dependable, stable, secure base they can hold on to, no matter what storms may come. Our world is full of big problems. An epidemic of hopelessness is among the biggest. I don't know how to make it go away, but I know these boxes help. All by themselves, they're quite small, but they open up to reveal something huge, and perhaps the only thing with the power to make a real difference.
And we're back.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I love Find Your Anchor. I think it's a beautiful resource. I had the honor of launching a Find Your Anchor box here in New York a couple of weeks ago, and I just think to have that tangible hope in your hands and to be able to share that with someone else is just so valuable. So I'm so happy Find Your Anchor exists in the world. So this question is for all of the panelists. So as I mentioned, we're now in an age where, and as we've been talking about, young people are finding community online. So I'd love to talk a little bit to the people who are building the communities, our community builders. What best practices would you suggest to these community builders in order to allow their members to feel like they can have these mental health conversations with their peers? And I think we'll start with Shayan.
Awesome. This is a really good question. I get asked this question often by parents in a similar way, not the community builder way, but how do I get my kids to talk to me about mental health or whatever it is? And I think something that I often forget too, and I think, a lot of people do, is we model the behavior of what we see around us. And if we're not able to show our vulnerability and our, struggles, it's very hard to expect someone else to open up to us 100% and list everything that they're going through. Which, I understand that in this conversation, I haven't really talked too much about my own experiences, but I think it's just the nature of the conversation. But if I was talking to someone to try to get them to open up to me, I would mention that, I still go to therapy. I still have really bad days, and that these are things that are very normal. It's not something that, I know better than you and my experiences are so different. No, we're all really going through a lot. And I think once we're able to start showing that and showing people that we all kind of go through similar things, obviously not everyone's situation is the same, but everyone struggles, everyone has good days and bad days. That in itself can just make a huge impact in getting people to really open up and feel more comfortable. And I'll tie on to that, kind of reiterating what Dr. BK said of, I think listening once people start talking is a really great way to get them to continue talking to you, where, if as soon as they open up and you say, oh, I've been through that exact same thing, or like, oh, this is what you should do, it's probably going to prevent them from coming back to you again and feeling like you're a place that they can go openly. So obviously every conversation is going to be different, but it's just the small things in conversations that can really make or break someone's comfort of, things like with myself, I try not to say stuff like, I know exactly what you're going through, because it seems very validating, but I don't know exactly what someone's going through because I'm not in their shoes. So small things like that I think can really have an impact. So, active listening, while it is, I think, a skill that we all kind of know, it's really hard to do well. So really, really focusing on that. And the last thing I would just add here is, if we are trying to build a community of people being able to open up about stories, I think we need to, and stories and their experiences, we need to highlight very diverse stories and experiences. In that, I know in my early days of Jacksonville, I would often talk about school stress, and I would go to young people and talk about my struggles with school. And I would sometimes have people not paying attention. And I realized that, oh, well, obviously, a lot of people don't have the same struggles that I did. Some people are struggling with family issues at home. Some people are struggling with issues related to all different kinds of things. So the more diverse stories I think we can showcase as well, the more of an open environment we're going to make for people to really share and feel like they have a place to share.
Absolutely. Thanks, Cheyenne. Dr. Bouquet, same question.
Yeah, I think, you know, like if you're a person that is creating community, right, around mental health, or being a person that is opening yourself up to be of support to other people, it's important that, you know, just to piggyback off of Cheyenne's point around modeling, that you model self-care, right? Like, and that you show people like how you do self-care, right? You know, I usually use IG as my platform, but on IG, you know, I talk a lot about this is what I'm doing today as my self-care routine. Like, this may be an idea that you can incorporate into your day and it might work well for you, right? And so like really being able to model how we take care of ourselves is something that is also really important, to just kind of add the humanity piece. And also, you know, to the vulnerability piece, like I think one thing that most people don't know is that most therapists have therapists. Like, we're like not these superhuman people. There's no such thing. And so, you know, most of us have community, have people that we lean on. And so it's almost like this like chain of support that happens, you know, in this mental health world. And so I just want to be able to like add that layer on so that people can know, like, even the people that are helping and are in a helping position, like, we are also getting help, or we're also doing self-care. And so it's important that if you're opening up community, that you're also doing the self-care piece.
That's such great advice and something wonderful to remember, that everybody needs the support, and we all need a support system, even if we are the community builders and mental health professionals. So thank you so much. Abby.
Yeah, so going off of what Cheyenne and Dr. Bouquet said, modeling this behavior is such an important thing to do, and showing, you know, our young people and the people that follow us, you know, that, you know, we do go to therapy, we do have, you know, our own mental health struggles, we do take medication. Is such an important thing to have people connect with us. And it's so simple, but it's just such a great way to have people say, oh, you know, they may not understand me fully, but, you know, they kind of get it, which is such a good first step. And I think another thing is just to listen to other people. The whole entire premise of my comic book, Life on the Outside, is based on a real life high school student in West Virginia. And I was able to hear their story and listen to their story and take from their story, you know, their struggles and what they were going through, and implement that into my comic book. You know, so they and other people who are going through the same things are able to, you know, be like, oh, well, you know, I go through this, and, you know, this is, you know, such a great way for someone to support me. I should, you know, let people know about this. This is great. Just being able to, again, just to, you know, listen to people and understand people, and, you know, share our struggles as well, I think is such a great way to be able to, you know, connect with everyone, and to, you know, show that, you know, we're here and we're able to listen.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Abby. And Mxiety.
So for those who watch my channel, they know that I've been on a big soapbox about this, so they're ready, and I might tune out. But the thing that I always recommend for people who want to talk about mental health is mental health first aid training. There are a few versions of it that are available out there for free. The reason isn't that, you know, you don't know what you're doing unless you're trained, and your experience is very powerful and very important, but how you talk, right? Cheyenne mentioned how important, you know, it might be to not say, hey, I know what you're going through. Like, that's the kind of stuff that mental health first aid will teach you. It's not there to make you a therapist and teach you how to, like, that's not the goal. The goal is to help you be, in your element when it comes to talking to somebody who might be experiencing a mental health crisis. And so I cannot recommend it enough. It is available in quite a few countries. There's also ally training. So I would Google it and check out in your country mental health first aid training if it's available. If it's not, there are other options. Other nonprofits handling this. I know that there is a geek therapy nonprofit that I'm working with, that we're working on a specific gamer-specific mental health first aid training that should be releasing next year. So yes, it's absolutely important to model. I want to kind of remind everybody what everybody else was saying, that yes, please model the behaviors that you are telling everybody to model. But if you really want to be an ally and just also for your own safety, want to make sure that you're prepared and you know what to do and where your boundaries are, mental health first aid training can help you establish all of those things.
Yeah, as a fellow mental health first aider, I recommend it as well. Dr. Bouquet mentioned the importance of expanding our vocabulary, and mental health first aid really does a wonderful job of doing that. I recently also took the virtual version of that they introduced, which I believe should be available, but it's such an amazing tool. So thank you for that resource as well, Mxiety. So I believe we now have some time to take a few questions from our audience. So I will turn it to you, Mxiety, to lead that.
Awesome. So if you have a question, exclamation in the letter Q, we'll be glad to answer it. Please keep them on topic, and please know that you're first, you can only ask one question at a time. Somebody did, Porsche Connect noted that you have a very comfy reading chair behind you. Is that right?
Me?
Yeah, Josh, sorry.
So the comfy is not necessarily the word I would use to describe this chair, but it definitely is a statement piece. And it's a little hand, but it's one of my favorite pieces of furniture, and I do sit in it from time to time, so thank you.
If you have any questions, please, I know it takes a moment to type in your responses, and there is a little bit of a delay with chat, but if you have any questions, now's a great time to ask them, whether it comes to other resources or anything else that we talked about. I'll be happy to field them. And that's my dog, sorry. Sometimes we do such a great job that people actually have nothing that they want to know additionally. But what's one action a young person can take to celebrate World Mental Health Day tomorrow? Oh my God, Arab, that's a great question. Josh, I'll throw it to you to throw it to everybody.
Well, so in the gaming community, we also have another exciting announcement that can tie into this question. Born This Way Foundation is partnering with Zynga and Words with Friends to declare that the word of the day for tomorrow, World Mental Health Day, is going to be stay. To tie into our Please Stay resource and remind people of that incredibly urgent message to please stay here with us. So you can celebrate by visiting pleasestay.us and playing Words with Friends tomorrow and using the very important word, stay.
Use stay when you, yes. So Blushing Crafter asked, to the organizations, are you interested in working with content creators and live streamers like you're working with Mxiety now? So I guess that goes for the nonprofit owners here.
I'm just going to take this chance to call myself a nonprofit owner, which I am definitely not, but
I don't know what else to say.
No, I've just been promoted so much. It's great. Yeah, I mean, we're always looking for different partnerships, especially with what I said of, when we're talking about sharing stories and telling stories. I think, again, one of the core messages behind Jax.org is peer-to-peer messaging and really putting youth at the forefront of, I think in a couple of years, I won't be able to do things like this anymore just because I'm going to be a bit more out of that range. But really, if you're a young person and you want to get involved, please reach out to us. We're very social savvy. So Jax.org is our handle on like everything. So DM us, find our emails, whatever. We're pretty available. We'd love to work with with as many people for whatever you're interested in. So yeah, hit us up.
And if you'd like to learn more about Born This Way Foundation and get involved with us, you can visit our website, bornthisway.foundation. If you have inquiries, you can also email info@bornthisway.foundation, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Excellent.
And for the Kind Mind Collective, our website's kindmindcollective.org. All of our socials, our email to reach us on there as well.
Shayan, can you repeat the 5 things you mentioned earlier, starting with say what you see, ask Porsche Connect?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So these are, like I said, the Be Their golden rules. They are, the first one is say what you see, which, by the way, my dogs are barking around in case anyone can hear, and I can't really stop them. So I'm just going to try to talk loud. But yes, say what you see is the first golden rule, which I'll just give a very quick summary. But if you go on bethere.org, you can kind of see more in depth about all of them. Pretty much just saying what you're seeing when someone's struggling, and really just saying what's in front of you rather than what you think is in front of you can make a big difference. Show you care, so letting them know why you're having that conversation with them, hearing them out. So once they start talking, really listening and really making sure that you're there, present in the moment, knowing your role. So I think Mxiety said something about this, but setting your boundaries and knowing what boundaries are for yourself, for your own safety, but also for theirs, and then connecting them to health. So making sure that they're connected to some sort of resource afterwards for that conversation to continue.
That's a great answer. Thank you so much. Taylor M. Parker asks, what does authentic self-care look like for you all when you feel drained or fully exhausted? Before I pass it over, I guess I'll answer really quick. Authentic self-care for me is sitting down and literally asking myself for a moment, what do I need right now? Am I tired? Am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Am I whatever it might be? And that sounds so silly and self-explanatory, but I feel like we often lose sight of our ability to do that, and we just kind of plow through the day and do whatever we need to do, and then we stop and at the end of the day and we're like, I'm so tired, what happened? And so taking that second to check in with yourself and ask, what do I need right now? How am I really feeling? Do I need to talk to my therapist? Do I need to talk to a friend? Just a quick self check-in will make a huge difference.
Sorry. If I could answer that just really a big fan of doggy kisses. I think they are like doggy therapy can be a really great form of self-care. Maybe for animal therapy for the cat lovers out there. But also, I'd love to, like I have scented lotions that are really, really helpful. So lavender lotions I usually use when I need to feel like a little bit calmer, maybe if there's like a little nervousness or anxiety kind of lingering, and anything that has like the scent of orange has also been known to be really calming for anxiety. So whenever there's like a day when there's just a lot happening and I'm like, whoa, the day is just really overwhelming. These are my like automatic go-tos. Doggy kisses, scented lotions, they're very accessible to me, especially right now. And if I ever need to go somewhere, I'll just plop a little lotion bottle in my bag and I'll have that with me so that I can also just smell something that can help keep me calm whenever I'm out in the world.
Okay. The next question is from Miss Amanda Green in chat. How can someone living with a chronic physical health condition make mental health a priority? Really, really good question. I think I would throw that over to Dr. Bouquet if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the major things that we like to say around mental health is that we have to take care of we call it the please skills, right? And please actually stands for something. It stands for the first PL stands for physical illness. So actually being able to take care of whatever physical illness is happening for you. So if you have chronic pain, making sure that if there's some medication that you have, or if there's some physical therapy or anything that you're undergoing in order to help you to feel as best as possible, even if this is a chronic condition, that you're following that regimen. Also, being able to have enough of nutrients, so eating well and staying away from anything that's is altering of your mood, right? So anything that, you know, can be like high sugar or caffeine or anything like that, and just like, you know, can help keep you like okay and calm. And also sleep, which is really, really important, not only for mood and anxiety, but also for our bodies to recover whenever our bodies are undergoing either short-term sickness or long-term sickness. So all of those things are part of like the please skills, the basic baseline of the things that we need in our world in order to be okay and to then start taking care of our mental health. But it can also help our mental health, because whenever we're not feeling okay physically, our mental health is going to actually be impacted. So if you can take care of the basics, you will see a big change in how your mental health is gonna be, you know, as well.
Awesome answer. I think we have a great last question that maybe all of us can answer, or as many as are comfortable, of course. So Anna Coates asks, do you have any tips for when you struggle with feeling super lonely, isolated, and mentally exhausted in a time when isolation is being encouraged?
Yeah, so for me, I'm lucky enough to have access to my own car. So what I like to do personally is I just like to go on drives, listen to my music, and just, you know, roll the windows down, feel free. And that's just something that helps me just, you know, get out of the house, especially in a time like this where we're all trapped in our houses, and just make me feel a little more, you know, important in this world.
Yeah, and that's wonderful. I live in New York City, so I miss driving a lot. But just jumping off of that, if I'm feeling lonely, I just love to go out into the city. I know, you know, we're distancing ourselves and we're all in masks. Just a reminder to kindly mask. It's a sign of respect. But I'm so comforted by taking walks and just like smiling with the eyes at strangers on the street. It's just a nice reminder that we're truly not alone, and a smile can make someone's day. So that makes me always feel a little less lonely.
Yeah, I mean, I think very relevant to what platform we're on right now. I think gaming, for example, is one of the things that a lot of times, especially during social or you know, when we can't see each other in person, it can help so much just to feel like you have people there with you. Where, you know, I used to play a lot more video games than I do now, but I know that when I did, and you know, even at the beginning of quarantine, I was playing a lot more. It would help just being able to spend some time with my friends. And I think on a similar note, finding something that you can kind of just talk to people about, like it's a very weird thing, but it works for me. Where I'm watching the NBA finals right now, and then whenever we're watching the games, I'll be like live chatting with my friends about the game. And even though we can't be in the same room together, I feel like that helps a lot of just feeling like you're there with them. So if there's like a show you like or something that you can kind of have a fan base around, I think that stuff can really help and go a long way, especially when you're not able to see people.
Yeah, so I actually have a couple of different friend groups, very, very small ones, like 2 to 3 people. One is 4 people, and I actually have in my calendar check-ins with all of these groups on a monthly basis, and we do FaceTimes, or we'll actually like create some sort of a video chat in some platform together, and we'll spend, you know, a couple of hours just, you know, talking about everything that's happening in our world and holding space for each other, and also just talking about funny things that we found, you know, just all over the internet. And it's a really nice opportunity to be in community with people, and for each one of us to just, you know, give each other support around all the things that are happening. But it's like this very sacred time that like we're not moving unless there's something that's happening in anyone's life. But like Sunday at 4 p.m., everyone's ready to go. And we know that, you know, that's our time for each other. So really like actually setting apart some time for a specific group of people that, you know, are kind people that really hold space for you in a way that feels safe is a really nice way to feel like you're in community when the world feels so alone.
I, of course, am going to say check out Twitch. So of course, not all of Twitch is going to be your thing, just because there's so many options out there, but because there are so many communities out there, it's a very good chance you could find yours. There's communities surrounding art, cosplay, specific, like each specific game has at least, you know, dozens and thousands of communities. So go onto Twitch, click around, check it out, stop by Abby's stream, stop by my stream, depending on, you know, what you're interested in talking about and who you're interested in talking to. And just know Twitch is one of those wonderful things where somebody's live all the time. So no matter where you are, it's definitely not like a support service 24/7, but it is a great place to feel that connection with other people, to feel less alone. You know, you might end up connecting with other people who really like knitting Pokemon figurines. That's a thing that exists. You might, you know, be a fellow Disney like I am and find other Disney heads on Twitch. Like, everything is here, so I can't recommend obviously Twitch enough, but any kind of way to continue connecting socially where you can kind of find your niche and find your people. I know it's not the same as real life connection, but it's amazing. It really is. I love my community, and I'm very, very grateful for all the people that we have connected here.
And we're grateful to be here, grateful to have you, Mxiety. Thank you for hosting that little Q&A section for us. So I have one last question for all of you to close us out. And that's simply, I would just love to know, what brings you hope right now? Where are you finding hope? And we'll start with Mxiety.
I'm going to quote the wonderful Mr. Rogers, right? When things are bad, you look for the helpers. The helpers are who continue inspiring me. I know that the world isn't, you know, all peachy keen, and that's obvious. So looking for those good people, looking for that kindness, sometimes you have to seek it out, but it's so worth it because it inspires you to give kindness forward, right? I've kind of made a silly remark that if you want to spread something, don't be spreading illness, spread positivity, because that's just as contagious. When you're kind to somebody else, chances are they're going to go out there and be kind to somebody, and that person might go out there and be kind to somebody else. So that's in our motto and Be the Light, and that's a thing that I strongly believe, that if you can create kindness, if you can look for kindness, then you in turn will be inspired to create more of it.
I love that. Thank you so much. Shayan.
Yeah, I mean, this is again a really good question, and one that I struggled to answer at first, just because, you know, like Mxiety said, we all kind of know the world isn't the prettiest place right now. But I think that something that kind of occurred to me, which you know, I think drives me a lot, is realizing that I was sometimes looking for like kind of the light at the end of the tunnel right now, and not recognizing that where I am today is in a way the light at the end of the tunnel of where I was like 5 years ago. In that, I think it's so powerful to just recognize how far you've come and how like inspiring and hopeful that is for me. Because I'm sure a lot of people can relate of where I am today. I would have never thought I would be here 5 years ago. There was so many other places that I would have put way more money on betting of that's where I'm going to end up, or, you know, not being able to get to this point. And it's just been amazing to see what I've been able to get through. And I'm not trying to say that in a way of what anything I'm doing even at work right now, but just in my personal life of my own growth. And it's hard to notice that in the moment because, you know, on my hard days, it feels really hard, and it feels like, well, I'm feeling this horrible pain, so it must mean that I haven't made any progress. But then I realized, well, actually, I've gone through a lot, and I've been able to get through those things. And so maybe I can be pretty hopeful that I can get through these things as well. And on that note, too, just comparing it to the past, I think conversations around me have changed so much, where I now have so many friends I can talk to so much more openly about what I'm going through. My dad is another big one, where 5 years ago, I didn't even know how to talk to him about literally saying the words mental health. And now he might even be watching me right now. So there's just so many of those things where once you kind of think about it and you really start to look into it, I think you can be a huge point of hope for yourself, just because you've made it this far and you've gone through so much that, you know, who's to say how much more you can get through? I'm sure, you know, the possibilities are endless. So yeah.
Yes, that is so inspiring. Thank you, Cheyenne. Dr. Bouquet.
Yeah, I mean, I find hope in, I get to be in such an incredible position of being able to hear so many stories throughout the week and, in sessions and even, just on Instagram and in my communications with people in my life. And I hear so much strength and resilience. And I feel like, that gives me hope for our collective future. I feel like there is so much that we already have within us that, I think all of that is actually going to help push us through this moment in life where the world is, kind of flipped upside down. So I have hope just by hearing how people, and even Cheyenne, just how you mentioned, being able to get through the tough moments and being able to see, the beauty in this day, right? And I hear so much of that on a daily basis, and that brings me hope and helps grounds me and hope for the future, for whatever that may look like. But I know that we'll get through it together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And Abby, what's bringing you hope?
So right now, what's bringing me hope is just all the, kindergartners all the way up to college students who are, persevering through these times and just keep going and keep, working on their school and pursuing, what they want to. That gives me so much hope, especially I was working in public schools right before the pandemic, and the pandemic shut us down. So all those young people who I've met throughout my time working in public schools and everyone throughout the country just gives me so much hope that through these hard times that we could get through it, and just gives me hope too that if these young people can do these things with like so much resilience and just jumping through all these hurdles, that anything's possible.
Absolutely. That gives me hope too. This generation of young change makers it's just so inspiring. And Dr. Bouquet, you mentioned the resilience. It's just like, it's so inspiring to see the good in the world, the helpers, Mxiety you mentioned. It's just, there is good and there is hope. And I'm so glad that we got to lean into a little bit of that today. You all give me hope. You all give me light. And we were talking a little bit about the lights in your background. I'm a fellow Dis nerd, so I appreciate your tangled nod back there. So I thank you each for the light that you are bringing into the world right now. And I've so enjoyed talking to each of you, but unfortunately we do have to say goodbye for now. But I will leave us all with one very important message, the most urgent message that I can think of right now, and that is you matter. You're so incredibly loved, each of you watching, each of you panelists, you matter. The world needs you. And to find out more about how you can anchor yourself to the world and pledge to Please Stay, I'll just remind everyone about pleasestay.us. And if you're interested, we're also having a conversation with our co-founder, Cynthia Germanata, and some amazing panelists, talking a little bit more about pleasestay.us on Born This Way Foundation's YouTube and Facebook page, happening in about 40 minutes at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1 p.m. Pacific Time. So thank you all so much for being here with me. Thank you, Mxiety, for hosting. Always remember to be kind, be brave, and just know that you are loved. Thank you.
Thank you.